let's continue on to number 2 on this review sheet. Taking a frequency distribution, this one is already made for us, and constructing a histogram and then a frequency polygon of this data. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 classes here with the frequencies attached to them. So in order to make our histogram, in order to prepare for our histogram, we need to calculate what is called the midpoint of each class. This can be done by taking the average of the endpoints. So 5 plus 10 divided by 2 is equal to 7.5. 11 plus 16 down here divided by 2 is equal to 13.5. Now you can continue with this by adding up each endpoint, taking the average, again dividing by 2, to get each midpoint. But we can also notice that the beginning points here are going to tell us what the class width is for each for this data set. So 11 minus 5 is equal to 6. 17 minus 11, for instance, is equal to 6 also, and that should be constant throughout this entire data set, the beginning point of each class, because that is what we're going to need to do in order to find the alternate endpoints, one lower than the first midpoint, one higher than the last midpoint, in order to fill out our frequency polygon. So 7.5 minus 6 is 1.5. 37.5 plus 6 is 43.5, right? And that is done by identifying and calculating the class width based on the classes given to us. So let's take this and construct our histogram first. Histogram is going to have an x and a y axis. The y right here, the vertical, x is the horizontal. It does not have to be labeled as x and y. But we have our midpoints here that we calculated, 7.5, 13, 19, 25, 31, 37.5. We can label this as the saturated fat because that is what the data represents. And on the y-axis, the vertical, we're going to need to put in a frequency. Take a look at your numbers in your frequency. If these numbers go up to, let's say, 50, if the numbers maybe only go up to 2 or 3 or something like that, then this scale should be chosen appropriately. This scale looks like single-digit numbers, you know, topping out at the lowest double-digit number of 10. So a scale of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 is appropriate here. Label that as frequency, and then we can draw our bars to go up as high as necessary. 8, 5 is going to be between 4 and 6, up to 10, up to 6, right? That's over here, and then 3 and then 1. Well, I'm not looking for anything super exact, but it does have to be in the right ballpark. Last thing we want to do is put a title, daily intake of saturated fat in this case. So what you can do in order to construct your polygon is build it right on top of this histogram, and that's going to be right down here, right? On your solution, you do not have to show both. You only have to show the one, which will be this one with the polygon right on top. So when you draw these bars, when you draw this midpoint, make sure to leave some room in the beginning because you're going to need to put that alternate beginning midpoint for the polygon right in this spot over here. And then at the end, you're going to have another spot for that higher midpoint. Put dots in the middle of each bar, including at the new endpoints, 43.5, 1.5. And then you can see this red line, we're going to connect the dots to form our polygon. And that is all there is to that, concluding number 2.